Today, I'm going to give you some of the problems that you might encounter in leasing out your residential property. And as a bonus, I will also give you some tips on how to avoid this kind of mess. Let's go! And now, I'm in a one-bedroom unit of a certain developer. And let me cut to the chase with the first problem. First problem is that the difficulty of finding the right tenant for your unit. According to some real estate practitioners, it will take you as a unit owner to find the right tenant for approximately about 2 to 3 months. So imagine losing an opportunity income of 3 months. That is a lost game. However, let me propose this one tip for you. Hire a real estate broker with active leasing agents, and they'll be able to increase the likelihood of renting out your property for a short period of time. Second problem is that your property is being used for illegal purposes such as gambling, prostitution, drug den, and some other things that are illegal in our current laws. Worst case is that you might get charged or involved for tolerating this kind of acts, which is not. The best solution I can give to you is that through tenant screening process such as profiling, validation, due diligence. Due diligence is that you might want to ask his or her certificate from the Bureau of Immigration or working permit from the DOLE. And through your personal tenant interview, because through personal tenant interview, you might have that instinct if you want him to rent out your unit or not. Third problem is that the tenant is violating the terms included in the lease agreement. For example, you rent out a one-bedroom unit for a maximum of 2 persons only. Then later on, upon inspection, you found out that the persons staying in your unit are now 4. Then, the worst case is that when you check in the bedroom area, you know and you remember and you put in the inventory list that it is a double-sized bed or a queen-size bed. Then now, upon shock, you saw that it's now a double deck. So that is a blatant breach of contract. Contact the broker or the agent who provided the tenant for you and talk to them that it's a breach of contract and you don't want to continue anymore. If they don't want to get out of the unit, then file a case in court for eviction. Fourth problem is that the tenant is delinquent with his payment, or in other terms, failure of the tenant to pay the rent in its required due date. This usually happens, and this is the most common problem that our owners are experiencing. So what we will do with this one is we always advise our owners to ask for a post-dated checks for the payments or ask for a higher advances. In Mall of Asia properties, we always ask 6 months advance and 2 months deposits, or 12 months advance and 2 months deposits for rentals higher than 10,000 because it's not covered by the Rent Control Act of 2009. Mind you, okay, Rent Control Act of 2009 is only for 10,000 and below rent, because for 10,000 and below rent, the required advance and deposits is 1 month advance and 2 months deposit only. So if your rent is below that, we advise that you always ask 1 month advance and 2 months deposit only, because you may be violating the said law.
If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, just write it below and don't forget to click subscribe.